Hey guys, my name's Anna and I somehow got a 1600 on my latest SAT. I actually didn't get a perfect essay score. I got a 768, but I was able to improve a lot from my previous essay scores by just following these tips. I'll go over my best essays first, and then I'll read parts of my essays out loud since I think it's really good to have a reference for whatever score you're aiming for, and there aren't a ton of resources online for that. Also, don't mind my incredibly high salt levels in this video. I just really don't think the SAT essay is a great way of judging writing skills or creativity, and a lot of my English teachers agree with me, and apparently colleges do too, since not a lot of them require it. A lot of the checkboxes that SAT essays look for actually work to make essays worse in real life, if that makes sense. So keep these tips in mind to specifically improve your SAT writing, not your actual writing, although there is some overlap there. The most important tip is to write a lot. For the graders who have like 2 minutes to grade these, they're looking for quantity over quality. My first essay, I spent a lot of time collecting and organizing my thoughts, and wrote how I would normally write an essay, and that got me a mediocre score. The next time, someone told me I just needed to write more, so I tried just word vomiting on the page, but my handwriting is really small, so I still only got about 2.5 pages written, but my writing score jumped up to a 7. The last time I took it, I experimented just for fun with increasing my handwriting to like double the size that it normally is, and lo and behold, I wrote 4 pages and I got a full score in the writing category. Is this hard evidence that writing 4 pages will get you a full score? No. Does it make me really mad that I didn't try it sooner? A little bit. Try to write on every single page they give you, even if that means physically writing bigger than you normally do, because there's definitely some correlation there. To judge essay quality super fast and superficially, College Board also takes a look at what words you're using. Try to throw in a juxtaposition here and there, a dismantling, a counter-argument, a utilizes, a subversion. Also, this is just a pet peeve of mine, but diction means words, so if you just use the word diction to describe something the author's doing, it's like saying the author used words to do things. Instead, you should use some fancy and maybe slightly pretentious adjective before it to describe the words you're talking about, like contrasting diction, powerful diction, sympathetic diction, etc. Finally, have a database of words for show in your mind. My go-tos are emphasizes, demonstrates, highlights, illustrates, suggests, and establishes. Cycling through all of those once or twice instead of just using one of them like 10 times throughout the essay will give your essay more character with basically no extra thought, and you'll get your sophistication points in that writing category. You can also use some phrases to mix things up if you run out of ideas, like gives credibility to. They also love seeing varied transition words, so pull out that likewise, furthermore, moreover, instead of just saying also or similarly a lot. Again, in a non-SAT context, making your essay sound like an 18th century playwright wrote it is maybe not the best thing to do, but the graders love it. I think the biggest 2 mistakes I was making before were my format and the way I was analyzing evidence. See, I was taught to be creative and have a little fun looking deeper for meaning in the text, and to never be as shallow as to refer to how the author thinks the audience would react to something, since that's kind of meaningless. Again, in real essays, go for it. That's a cool strategy. But the graders have like 2 minutes and go based off of a rubric with key points that they're just checking off, so they have no time to decipher any creative thoughts. So mention the audience's reaction like a lot, but in as thoughtful a way as you can. In bringing up evidence, you first need to identify the name or device for what it is, quote it, explain how it functions in the text and in a broader context, and explain its effect on the audience. If that all sounds a little bit repetitive, you're right, so the creativity comes in making this blend cohesively and not sound so repetitive. So in the little description of what you're supposed to be doing, College Board tells you you have the choice of citing any of these rhetorical devices that the author uses to help explain yourself. I eventually learned that it isn't a choice if you want a high score. You have to use all 3 of these. You might be thinking again, isn't it better to deeply analyze 2 of the author's strategies than superficially trying to get through all 3? And yeah, but this is College Board we're talking about. They also like seeing each paragraph ordered by rhetorical device type and not necessarily by the arguments of the author, so keep that in mind. To get full points, you have to have an intro and a conclusion. Part of an introduction is writing a killer thesis. If we compare my crappier essay with the one I did better on, we can see a clear difference here. Here's my old one. Through facts and figures, sound reasoning, and stylistic elements, Marco strengthens his argument that mislabeling seafood should come to an end. This is kind of weak sauce, and it's clear I didn't put a lot of time into figuring out what I wanted to specifically say about each of the evidence categories before I wrote it. Compare this to the better one. In the article, Jerry C. argues parents shouldn't discourage their children from pursuing careers in art by dissecting and dismantling the counterargument to this claim with hypotheticals, contrasting both scientific and informal diction to establish a playful tone, and supporting his claim with extensive data on workplace happiness to prove parents don't always know what's best for a child. That is a lengthy beast of a thesis, and I went into more depth for each part that will make up each of my body paragraphs. If you need to, leave a few lines blank to write your thesis in at the end when you have your points better developed in your mind. Just be sure you don't run out of time since the thesis is really important. Now I'd like to just take the time to read my best essay to you guys so you guys have some kind of a reference. I would have just displayed it on the screen and have you guys pause and read it, but my handwriting is a hot mess, so I thought I should probably just read it out loud. Before we begin, please note that this is not a perfect example at all, but hopefully seeing an example of what a particular score looks like will help you improve your own SAT essay. I'll put annotations on the screen of phrases that were a bit awkward or things I could have improved on as we go. Okay, here we go. A child becoming an artist may cause their parents apprehension that they will remain unemployed and fear that their career path won't support them in the future. But is this justified, and is an alternative of dissatisfaction and unfulfillment from other careers worth the trade-off? In the article, What to Do If Your Child's First Love is Art, Jerry C. argues parents shouldn't discourage their children from pursuing careers in art by dissecting and dismantling the counterargument to this claim with hypotheticals, contrasting both scientific and informal diction to establish a playful tone, and supporting his claim with extensive data on workplace happiness to prove parents don't always know what's best for a child. C. first spends much of the beginning half of the article setting up an anecdote of a student who enjoys art, explaining the apprehension the parents may face and sympathizing with both sides. This creates the atmosphere that the author has the best interest of everyone in mind and knows the parents are just trying to help. For example, in the 8th paragraph, he explains that parents foresee their children clerking at the local pharmacy to support their passion, if they follow their passions and become artists. This gives justification and reasoning for the parents' actions, which helps to convince his audience that he's not blatantly undermining their ideas. He then suggests that although parents shudder at children gambling with their future, it may be the parents who are rolling the dice by not allowing their children to pursue their passions. This casts doubt in the audience's mind that the parents are making the right decision, and uses the element of surprise through the gambling metaphor as the tables are turned. This transitions into his argument smoothly after providing the unfounded reasoning of the counter to it. He also mentions his own personal anecdote of two of his artistically gifted neighbors led away from their passions. He says that whether one was a potential Horowitz and the other a Georgia O'Keeffe will never know, in paragraph 7. This hypothetical emphasizes the true gamble as to whether or not they will be successful, but also the wasted potential of not allowing them to pursue their crafts. Through this example, the author conveys wasted talent that will never see its fruition, and the audience feels that gap and sense of sadness and longing of what could have been. Through reasoning, whether by disproving counterarguments, demonstrating his sympathy, or explaining hypothetical situations, C sets up the foundation for his argument to build on later and establishes himself as trustworthy. C also uses contrasting diction throughout the first half in order to create a playful yet almost sarcastic tone. This tone keeps the piece lighthearted while discussing a serious subject matter, which helps him sound less commanding and his ideas more as suggestions. For instance, in the 3rd paragraph, he mentions before college is the time to bask in your offspring's talent. The word offspring is unusual in this context and typically is in reference to science and biology. Using such a formal word here constructs a sense of irony and paints the parents as invested in their child's endeavors but cold in their beliefs and values. This brings further credibility to his own claim and ideas and causes the audience to consider the larger picture instead of only considering what the parents want. Similarly, C also uses the phrase, "playtime's over," to establish how babied the students are in this situation. His juxtaposition of the cold, formal language used to describe the parents and the phrase typically used in a more childish setting shows the audience that the children have little choice in their career options and that the parents are overbearing. In the second half of the article, C emphasizes data and logic to better support his claim with concrete numbers. He cites a study in which 66% of young artists were able to find work they wanted. This, in contrast to what the parents' beliefs were, shows the audience that they were not justified. Furthermore, he states that 70% of those employed in artistic fields were very satisfied with their jobs, as opposed to the 70% of American workers not engaged or actively disengaged from their workplaces. These numbers oppose the expectations of the audience and the parents who don't allow their children to pursue these artistic fields. The subversion of expectations strengthens his arguments and proves that parents shouldn't decide the future of their children. Overall, workplace satisfaction and engagement must be taken into account, according to C. Parents who argue otherwise don't consider that artists have little trouble finding work they love. He supports these ideas with a lighthearted tone, sound reasoning based on disproving counterexamples, and many figures and numbers to strengthen it. As you can probably tell, I definitely ran out of time on my last paragraph and conclusion, so definitely be sure to prioritize the topics you have the most to say about and the ones that are most important to the claim. I hope this helped you out, and if you have any other tips, leave them in the comments below. Be sure to check out the other parts of my series. These took forever to make, so I would really appreciate it if you pressed that like button, commented your success stories, and subscribed for more. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!